Hey, welcome to the second lesson of Interaction and Animation course. In this lesson, we'll talk about how to set animation event to a tag, how to edit a trigger for your animation, and many different interesting settings. So, without further ado, let's begin. First of all, we need to select on which element we want to set our animation event. It can be anything. It can be this paragraph here, this image here, this div here, or this whole section. For this example, I'm going to select the section, head over to this interaction tab here, click on the add button and open my animation. Here you can see a bunch of different options. First one is the name of your animation, and it doesn't really matter how will you name your animation, but for this case, we're going to take a look at this section here. It's called team section. It consists out of a team members, so we're going to name it team animation. The next field is the event field, and here you can configure what will be the trigger for your animation, or in the other words, when your animation will actually begin. If I open this drop down here, you will see a bunch of different options, which are pretty much self-explanatory. In the future, we'll have explanatory videos for every single event here, so if you cannot figure out something on your own, don't worry. The next field here is the execution field, and when I open it, you will see two different options here, asynchronous and synchronous. Asynchronous option will execute all of your actions immediately, but in the other hand, the synchronous option will put your next action on hold until the previous one is completed. This is very useful when you're working with some dynamic contents like CMS items or some API items and you don't know how long it will take them to be fully loaded. In those cases, you will use the synchronous option where the actions will be executed once the items are fully loaded. Okay, we're back again, and the next on our list is the loop option. When I open it, it's pretty simple. You just have two different options, yes and no. With yes, you can turn on the loop option, and with the no, you can turn it off. To see what the loop option actually does, let's transition to the live site. In this example, you can see this pulsing animation. Once the animation completes, it starts over and over again, and it goes infinitely. That's exactly what the loop option does to your animation. Okay, so we are back again, and in the meantime I created this simple action here that will help us understand our next option, the stagger. Before we start explaining the stagger option, let's first of all preview our animation. If I click on this play button, my animation will trigger. And as you can see, this is a rather simple animation. It just makes my card appear in a simple styling. But what the stagger actually can do to this animation? As you can see, all of these cards are starting simultaneously. And that's because these cards, as you can see here, are looped. And I cannot set the delay in my actions here. That's where the stagger comes in help. If I go here and, for example, type in 200 milliseconds, and preview my animation again, you will see that I have a delay between my items of 200 milliseconds. To explain it even more, when shall you work with the stagger? The perfect timing for the stagger field is when you're working with looped items or with some different, let's call it groups. For example, if you're having same class attached to multiple elements and you are animating the class directly. That's the perfect timing to use the stagger. Now let's pay our attention to this once option. If I open this drop down here, you will see that it's a rather simple option. You can just turn it on and turn it off, same as the loop option. To explain you better the once option, let's hit the save button here and open the preview of this whole page. Now let's start scrolling our web page to see if something interesting happens. You will notice that at this point of scrolling, this pop-up notification appears. Let's close it and let's scroll back to top of our page and let's again scroll down to try and trigger it again. You will see that we are past the scrolling point from before and that pop-up isn't showing anymore. Now let's hit this reload button here and try to trigger it again. I'll start scrolling through my web page here, and as you can see, the pop-up notification is back on our screen. And that's exactly what the once option does. If you set it to yes, your interaction will only be triggered once per page load. This is very useful when you're working with the pop-up notifications that you want to be shown only once per page load. If you set it to no, your interactions may be triggered more than once. And we went through all the options here. But did we? Let's go back to the event field. Let's open it and let's select the on view. Now you can notice that the once option has completely disappeared, and now we have the new option, start when. Now you may be thinking, why have I lost the once option? That's because you don't have every single option available for every single event. Now when the mystery of a missing option is resolved, let's pay our attention to the new option, start when. If I open it here, you will see that it contains a bunch of options that are again pretty much self-explanatory. This option here is connected with the onView event, and it tells this event when exactly shall it trigger the animation. To explain it even more, the onView event triggers the animation once the whole section is in the viewport of my screen, but this field here specifies it even more. So, for example, if I open this dropdown and let's review this option here, top hits top. This basically means when the top of my section hits top of my viewport, the animation will trigger at that moment. And let's select this, hit save, and again open this whole web page in a preview mode. Now if I start scrolling to our section here, you will see that our cards are hidden, and this here is the top of our section. And pay your attention closely, as soon as the top of my section hits top of my screen, the animation will trigger at that point. Now let's go back to our animation to try something different. Let's again open our animation here, open the Start When menu, and now let's select this top hits middle. Let's select it, hit save, open the preview mode again, and now when we scroll to our section again, you will now notice that when the top of this section hits the middle of my screen, the animation will trigger. And that's it. We came to the end of this lesson. We saw how can we attach animation events to certain tags, and we discussed some rather technical stuff. In the next lesson, we are going visual. We'll see what the animations are actually capable of. Let's keep going, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we'll make something move on our website.